And so we continue our ongoing playthrough of Order and Opportunity. We move now from the round 3 to round 4 here on the rounds track, and start again per the order of play track here with the Russians development. So this is the last turn now for everyone before we get to the globalization phase. We get Saddam Hussein placed. This should be placed in the Middle East, but as often is the case towards the end of a period of play, all the slots are already taken, so simply discard that card, no further effect. Opportunity, let's see, what was the situation here? Is Russia anywhere in position to resolve? I think not. So we continue into the commands, and now we are in the, we noted at the end of the previous video that we might want to consider resolving the Ukraine world event before the NATO and or EU influence is catching up with us, and then we lose the opportunity. So and for that, so that's a mechanic we haven't looked at yet. It's a fairly simple one. Let's go with these 3 cards. So I mean, like always, at the start of your commands step, you nominate a suit that you play. So we nominate the political action or the political suit and play 3 cards of it. And so we must suffer the consequences. So it's 1 consequence per each 2 cards played. So that means if we been able to play 4 and decided to play 4, then we would actually suffer the same consequence twice. Now it's only once, and the consequence relating to political action is terror threat increase. So we go here in the Russian home space from 1 to 2 levels of terror threat, and then we can start playing these cards how we like. So the basic options I have noted to play a card for the suit, and then therefore for a corresponding action, or you take one of the you take the event option and as printed on the card, or you and this is where we get to resolving world events. You can, and this must happen at the start of your turn, you can spend any 2 cards to resolve a world event where you fulfill the conditions. So we fulfill the conditions here for the Ukraine as noted, and so we have the option of spending 2 of those cards, simply playing them and using them to resolve it. The other option is using the same mechanic, is spend 2 cards and convert one of these agenda points that the Russians now hold 2 of into a victory point. So, but we will now do the world event, and so let's see which cards do we want to use. So I'm quite keen on keeping this one here for the event. I will talk about that soon. So these 2 we will simply discard. Or we don't discard them quite yet. We set them aside, and then trigger the resolving of the world event, and simply we look at what's the type of influence we're using to resolve it. Well, it's economic. What's the reward as stated on the card? Corresponding to the triangular economic influence piece, it says 2E, so that means 2 economic agenda points. So I discard the card, and then I go here to the banks of agenda points and take 2 economic APs. So as such, these are not worth anything yet, and they must be converted into VPs. And then the mechanic is, as I explained earlier, you can discard 2 cards at the start of your turn, always at the start of your turn, to convert 1 AP into a 1 VP, or if you manage to hold on, and this is the other option, to your agenda points until the very end of the game. So after the round 8 comes the second and the last globalization phase, shown here on the round track. There you have the option of converting all agenda points of one type into VPs 1-for-1. So, but the question there is, of course, are you able to hold on until then? And so, yeah, so those are the two ways of converting APs into VPs. Right. So we did that, and so that's that. Those two cards played, and now we will play this remaining political action card for its event, and this allows us, as the card text will tell you, to remove, or attempt to remove rather, terror threats from our home space. And you remember from a previous video, the great thing about these events is, and each power has one in their deck, is that if you roll well enough, you can even earn a second free command, so a free chance to nominate another suit and play more cards. So, and not only that, but you may spend any resources for a +1 die roll modifier for each resource spent before the roll. Well, we are don't have too many resources, so we will simply not spend any resources and hope that we roll well enough. So let's roll. We have a 4, and that's just enough to qualify for an additional command, so that's good. And as the card text states, we remove terror threats, the 1d6 that we roll halved, rounding up. So 4 halved is 2, so we get rid of both of those 2 levels of terror threats. So let's just return the marker to available. And I keep those cards there still. Now we get the second command, and that we will, unfortunately we don't have so many cards here that we could play from any given suit, so this is the best basically we can do. I noted in an earlier video that the Russians are not earning huge amount of resources. We are earning, as here shown on the player mat, 1 resource, all of 1 resource when the globalization phase comes. So better try to get some economic influence onto the map. And so what's the best place of placing economic influence? I am going to place economic influence here into China. So we earn, we have to select the space. So paying 1 resource. The advantage is though that now during the upcoming globalization phase, we will earn 2 resources, and there's the bonus earning as well, that if you have your own economic influence in the space of another player, in the home space of another player, then you will earn an extra resource. So this will basically be worth another additional resource. And so that concludes the Russian turn. The last thing remaining to do in the commands step is to place for free one of these cards that we have put onto the map. Place it for free in an available event slot. Well, there's nothing available. We have the option, however, of replacing our own card in the slot there. And the question is, what is the best thing here? Is there an event that? Yes. So let's do this. We do probably want to place this card down here. So replacing the one we have and dropping that in. This will allow us hopefully to place an alignment, a so-called alignment, during a later turn. But we will talk about that when it becomes relevant. So, and we discard the other played cards like this. Going into planning and planning. So let's illustrate some different mechanics. So we can talk about the pivotal events. So each region down here in the bottom row has its own pivotal event, and when it's your turn to plan, you can introduce a pivotal event into your deck. I will choose the Europe pivotal event. So thematically, this signifies Russians taking special interest in Europe as a region. the card says it's because color revolutions have been occurring in Europe, and it's making us nervous, so we sort of highlight in an abstract way Europe, the significance of Europe. And so we simply plan this card, and for this purpose you have to have a look at the pivotal events track. There's one marker for each region there, and let me zoom in a little bit, and you so we are choosing the Europe one. So what we do is we take the marker and move it up on the track. It reveals cost +1 now, so that means this first pivotal event, its inclusion in a draw deck is free, but from now on it costs the second region, whoever wishes to do it must pay 1 resource, and so on. And what happens with this card is it goes into the Russian discard pile. It will enter from there into our draw deck and eventually the hand, and then we can play it and trigger it for a scoring in that region. But it's going to come with a little bit of delay, so that's that. And then finally we can discard and refill, and I will simply draw 4 cards to refill my hand to 5. And that is the Russian turn.